example, Sam, you go into a community, you find this young man, he's sitting, he's a graduate, papers, he's gone back to his home community and he said he's only lacking capital. If you give him capital, he's going to start a business. What do you think? Is that a red flag or a green?
That's a red flag for me.
Why?
At least they should begin with the little they have.
They don't have anything.
No, I don't believe in that. There is something. Maybe they could wait for something else, but that's a red flag for me for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to see whether that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Another one is you go into a community, you find a group of maybe youth or women already doing something, you join them and you do something together with them. You build a new project. Is that a red flag or a green flag?
That's a green flag.
Why is it a green flag?
Because the community has started doing something.
Yes, and you have joined them and then you are doing something with them.
Yeah.
So another example is there's a community somewhere where there has been flooding. You know, that happens quite a lot in different places. So the community sit together and they decide, what can we do about this? So each community member contributes, this is what I can do. And the following day they come with the hose and everything they need to create the drainage system so that the water can go through. Is that a red flag or a green flag?
Green flag.
When they didn't invite the government at all.
Yes, because they are finding solutions within their own community by themselves.
Yes, and that's what we are going to be discussing today. We'll be talking about why these are red flags, because each and everything we have talked about, whether it's a red flag or a green flag, represents a model.
Interesting.
That we use when we are going to meet the challenges of the communities we are serving or going to serve a community in one way or another.
Great.
Yeah.
That sounds exciting. So please go ahead and take us through the models.
Yeah, I'm going to start with one model called the medical model, or the two, development two. The community, development two, the people we're serving. So in this is a common model actually used by organizations that are really trying to do things on large scale, you know, because we want to roll it out to everybody. We don't care whether they are red, black, yellow. Everybody needs this solution.
Yes.
So we do research, and we can even spend years doing research on this particular thing. And then we decide, oh, this worked. We try it out in one community, and then we decide it works everywhere. So we go to community B, and then we roll it out to millions of people, because this is what is needed in that community. We don't consult them. We don't ask them if it's something that is necessary for them or not. We just know that it is important and we want it to go. So what happens under this approach is that the community is not involved at all. They are just receivers. They will wait for you to do everything. You are the one who brought the solution. You will explain it. You will bring the experts who are going to implement, because they know nothing about that solution. They will implement it. You will pay for it. After paying for it, you're going to tell the people to love it. You also have to pay them to like it. Have you ever been to some programs where people are being paid to attend a training that is important for their own lives?
Yes.
And that happens a lot. We have many organizations with huge budgets going to things that are not necessary. Inviting the people to come, we pay for them to come. Then we pay for our experts. Then we pay for the implementation. And
pay for transport allowance.
We pay everything. And when we leave, do you know what happens?
Ends there.
It ends there.
Yeah.
It will be like another story that was done. But it's not always bad. In some cases, it works, you know. In emergency situations, sometimes people use it. And it works. Governments use it when they want to scale. But some of us, we use it in our own organizations because we have maybe multi-country offices. And we want to roll out the same thing in all the offices. We don't care. Even in Africa, we have people who are different. Even in one country, you can find 40 tribes.
Many different tribes.
So what you do in one community might not work in another community.
Why is that? Since it worked in community A and it succeeded, why can't it succeed in community B?
People are different. Communities are different. Resources are different that are needed. And people care about different things. You might be surprised that something you care most about. Sometimes you should ask yourself a question. If nobody is doing something about this in this community, it's not always because of lack of knowledge. Sometimes it's because they don't care. And it's the sad reality. So how do we partner with that community in a way that can help them to understand that? So that's the first model. And there are many examples we can give.
Which is they do something to
the community. Yeah, there are many examples we've heard where they set up like markets. for a community. You know, I even have mental pictures of these markets in a community. They take these women who are selling from the streets and they say, if we only set up a market. I think this was a story that was shared in class.
In our class, yeah.
By a friend of ours from Uganda,
yes.
Who said they tried to set up markets for the women who are selling on the streets.
On the road, yeah.
Exactly, and that was the whole program. They studied if we only set up markets, and what ended up happening to those markets?
They never used it.
They went right outside the market, and that's where the women were selling.
Yes.
So it's important to understand that communities are diverse. They have different things. We cannot just roll out the same thing and expect them to do it. But remember, if we are looking for sustainability, it's everything we are doing. If we bring the solution to them, we have to pay for it, and the community will not be able to own.
Interesting. What's the other model, Erica?
The other model is actually one of the most used models, Development 4. It's also called the charity model.
That one sounds nice, for the people.
For
really concerned about the people, doing it for them.
Guess how it starts, Sam? This is a very common model. And you know how projects start. How do they normally start?
Needs assessment.
Exactly. You go to a community and you ask. That's the only difference between the two models.
The 2 model and the 4 model.
And the 4 model, the only difference is that we actually take time to ask them what they need. But that question, Sam, let me throw it back to you.
Yeah.
What do you need?
Oh, lots of things.
Money.
I need money. I need a good car.
You need cows. You love cows.
Lots of things that I.
What do you think about me as I'm asking you that question?
When you ask me that what I need, I definitely will think, oh, they're going to give me something, or they're going to help me achieve my needs.
Exactly, because the person who is asking, and you're thinking, they must have a solution for me. So in the minds of the people that we are serving, when we ask that question, immediately we are beginning to give them the idea that we have something for them. Why should you ask me this question when you're not going to do anything about it? So communities, they also step back, saying the person has asked me, now they are going to do something about it. And by the way,
that means their own initiative dies the moment you ask them
that question. So the first thing you ask in communities, we usually have this conversation with many leaders, is that we feel like we can ask that question and then ask communities to contribute later. But that question itself has already conditioned the community to see you and to think about you in a particular way. So now they already see you as a provider, so now you have to do something about it. When you ask, what do you need? Then they say, I need this and this, and you should be the one who gives it. And they do research. They know you.
They know why you have come and what you are going to provide.
Exactly. So, but in the back of our minds, all of us, when we ask this question, many of us go when we already have a solution. Our organizations already are building schools. Our organizations are already setting up wells.
Yeah.
We are already knowing. We are going to give handouts.
Because as a development worker in an organization, you already have what you know you care about.
What you care about most. So when I go and ask that question, I'm kind of, in the back of my mind, going to validate this solution I already have. So many of us go already with the solution, ask the question, and who makes the decision at the end of the day when they've given us all the challenges?
It's me.
It's you. So you are the one who has made the final decision.
Not the community.
And because you are the one who has made the decision, who is paying for it?
I am paying for it.
You're going to pay for it. You're going to look for the people. And the community will step back and feel like, oh, these are people who have come. And in African culture, for sometimes we're very respectful. Even if we don't need something, we will take it. We would rather go and throw it in the back of our houses. But we will not say no to anything.
This is not what we need.
This is not what we need. Nobody is going to say that. And
as a development worker, you're ticking the boxes. We distributed this and that.
Exactly. And
but people, whether people are going to use it, whether it's beneficial, is a different story.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Have you ever heard of the famous quote, the one that people love, the one about teach a man how to fish? Don't give him a fish. Teach a man how to
fish.
Let's unpack that, because it's a very common statement that sometimes people use to validate solutions.
If you want to feed a man for a day, give him a fish. If you want to feed them for a lifetime, teach him how to fish.
So what do you think is wrong with that statement, if we were to unpack it a little bit?
I think it comes back the four? You're teaching.
Who is teaching? It's you.
It's you who's
Whose
teaching.
solution is it? Who's, the thing we are talking about teaching them how to fish. But then we already have the fishing road, how they should fish, what kind of fish they should fish, and this is what is going to get them out of poverty. So we already have a solution. That's why we go and we find organizations running one program. For example, we go to a rural community where there are farmers. Then we come with our tailoring project. Everybody should start sewing clothes. We train farmers how to sew clothes because we believe sewing clothes is going to get them out of poverty. Because I love sewing. I've been sewing all my life, and that's what has made me rich. So let me go and teach this community. Everybody wants to do it, but it's not contextual.
Yeah.
And everybody becomes. Do you know what ends up happening in that case? They ask you, can you now give me the road?
On the top.
Pay for the road, pay for this and that. You give it to them.
I think
If it's a sewing machine, you pay for it. The following day, if you are lucky, you find it.
If it breaks, you're the one to
Fix it. Or they sell it. And that happens.
I want small like this. Ngebeera wate nenjiteekako ki?
Bagiteekako buli kimu.
Nenjiteekako ebintu waggulu. This one, eyo yennyini gye njagala and I can hide it somewhere.
Sure.
Yes. Hide things. Bwekaba gye kali. Mwakagula mu second hand oba mu kapya?
I think kali kapya completely.
I don't mind about the price.
Yes.
No, I don't check the fridge, but I want something small.
So portable like
yes,
this.
Yes, space.
Okay, nja kubuulizaako then I'll tell you. Okay. See you.
In one of our programs when we were training in the ABCD, we had a young lady come and she said she has had a sewing machine that was given to her by another organization for 3 years that she has not used.
Wow. So the form model is not working as well.
Exactly, because it's engaging people only on their needs. When you engage people only on their needs, they are not being engaged to come up with a solution. And one of the ways to know that a community cares about something is to know what they're investing in. If they just list it as a need, it might probably be something that they don't care about and have not done anything.
That makes me anxious to know what's the solution. Then it looks like every model you're talking about. What's the third model about?
Well, we are going towards some better models now. So there is a with model where you work with the community, development with the community. So-called the co-creation model. Here is where you find people who are equally interested in what you're doing. For example, if you're an organization that is working in agriculture, you go and find local farmers in the community and co-create with them a solution. Now, for it to not be the solution has to be, you don't have to come with a predetermined solution. The solution,
the community already has the solution.
Yes, you have to go with the community, and the solution comes when you are together with them and rises from
both of you.
Yeah. But if you have come with a solution just to get the community to love it,
that's the form
model, because you've already built your solution.
Yes.
So the solution should arise from there, and because it's arising from the community should contribute, and you should contribute. But in some cases, we have organizations that say we are co-creating and they are funding 80% of it, doing everything. Maybe the community it doesn't end with the day they say this is the solution. Then you take over and do everything. Both of you should work equally to make that work. Every step the community should work with you so that they understand. And when you're living the community, it will be sustainable because the community knows from step one how to do it. They contributed. Every person in that community contributed at the design and the implementation and at the close of that program. Yeah.
That sounds the best for me now.
Yeah, it's a good model. It is.
What's the fourth one then? Because this is the third.
Yes.
It's been getting better and better.
So the third model, I want to ask you a question. We talked about the two model. We talked about the four model and the with.
The with model, yeah.
What do you think is the fourth model about? Like, since all these are good, and who is the center of all this? Who is the person who is doing it?
The development worker, the NGO.
Yes, you can see that on all the three models,
yes,
the development workers or the NGOs
is at the center.
Or the church, whatever it is at the center. They are coming to steer everything. But in the last model, it's where the community themselves are building solutions for themselves. And there's so many things, Sam, that communities can do for themselves.
And by themselves. Fund it. We are not talking about here the community just saying we are doing this and doing nothing. This model is where communities sit together, mobilize resources. First of all, they choose what is the best solution for the things they care most about, because they care about something. Then they mobilize resources to make that work. They come together as a group and take action without relying on an external person. And then they invite us, not as the leaders, but as people who walk alongside them to support them. So this is actually the model that I think had been existing even before. I think before we were colonized in Africa. I don't want to always blame the colonial. So this is actually at the heart of ABCD.
It is at the heart of asset-based community development. In Africa, I always argue, and I might be on the extreme end, so for my listeners, I'm very passionate about this, but I think that there was no unemployment in Africa before we were colonized. Do you agree with me, Sam?
I agree. It reminds me of a story I heard from the Pokot community in Kenya. And so there's the British came and, during colonial times, and then they started taking them to schools. This is a farming community. They took their children to schools, then got jobs. Others finished school, they couldn't find jobs, and then they were back into the farming community. And one old man in a meeting said, "Excuse me," said, "Yes, you found us here in our country. None of us lacked anything. We tilled our land, kept our animals, and there was no unemployment, just like you said. So you guys took us to schools, and now there is unemployment. It's a new concept that we weren't aware of." So I agree with you, and I think the wisdom of the old man was everyone was engaged in something, and so there was no unemployment indeed.
So it's the same thing when we bring a solution to a community, just to tie it out to colonialism. Before, every person in our communities had a path. Of course, we would argue there was gender, there would be many arguments about that, but there was a plan. A father would train a young child, and that child would take on the trade of the family. Each family had a trade. So there was no space of sitting and waiting. But then we were educated in this new system. Jobs were created that don't exist in our context. And now, many of us are graduating. We have so many young people graduating in Africa who are unemployed. Or young people now in communities in rural areas who relied on farming, who grew up in families where they were farming. Not wanting to farm anymore.
They don't want to do it
because somebody has come with something better. Everybody should look like this.
And that better opportunity is not even available.
It's not available. There's an example that one of the co-facilitator of the abandoned climbing trees. Now we will find so many of them at the bottom because they're not able to. They're physically not able to climb trees. So that's what happens when we are trying to force our solutions on people. They start to undervalue their resources. They look down on farming, which has always kept them, because there's this new way of doing things. So the question I have for you, Sam, is it better for communities to sit and do nothing, or do the little they can with what they have?
They do the little they can with what they have.
Exactly.
And that's the thinking of ABCD, right?
Exactly. But when you come into the community and you bring a solution, they then sit back and say, "I'm not going to do anything." So the ABCD is about how do we get communities to do what they can with the little they have. And one thing I always remind the leaders as we are coming to an end of this conversation is that it's not true that the day you walked into that community is the day that community changed.
They were already living.
They were
their lives
living.
before you came.
Someone who is 40 years old has lived for 40 years without you in that community. And they are surviving because of you? It's not true.
Yeah.
And if they are alive, this is what I want the leaders to take away from this episode. There's something right they're doing. And we can start from what is right. I'll end with a story because it's very important to always bring it home with a story. I know of a story of an organization that came and they were passionate about malnutrition. And as you know, this is an area where people bring solutions to Africa. They bring biscuits. If someone is in malnutrition, they have all these foods that have been designed in a particular place to bring them, and they come as aids to Africa, so many of them. And what ended up happening, that organization was like, how sustainable is this going to be? How long? What about when we are not there? So they first went to the community to learn about what was working in that community. And they looked, yes, there were people who were malnourished, but there were some families that were thriving in that community. And they learned from what those families were doing. What were they putting on their plate? What were their habits? What are the good things that were working? And what they multiplied and what they scaled to that community was what was working. It is the sweet potatoes, the food that was grown in that community,
which they knew how to grow and to prepare for their children.
And guess who led that campaign?
The people themselves.
Those families that were doing it.
It
was from the community to the rest of the community, not from outside the community into the community. So that's what we'll be talking about, how we can do that so that communities can own it, so they can see that this works within their own communities.
Nice. Thank you so much, Erica. So today we looked at the 4 models, the 4 with and by the different models, but from Erica's recommendation, buy determines everything and sustainability. And so what do we have for our next episode?
In our next episode, we'll be talking about how to choose that model. What situation should we be in to determine whether we're using 2, 4, with or by. So that's what we'll be going into, because they are all not bad, but the circumstances should determine what solution we use.
Thank you for joining us. For more episodes, please visit us on our website, kurumbuka.org/podcast. And we'll see you soon in our next episode.